Warriors fan, stop everything now. If you followed this season closely, you know exactly where this team was hurting. You know how many games slipped away due to the lack of a piece, adjustments that never arrived, and a constant feeling of something missing. Today, that changes. The deal is closed. The new signing has already been presented and is not just another name in the squad. Is the direct answer to a problem that had been ignored. In a few minutes, I'll show you why this arrival changes the rotation, changes the plan, and could change the direction of the Warriors from now on. If you love this team, stay with me until the end. Before moving on, do one quick thing that changes everything for this channel and for you. Sign up now, leave a like, and activate the bell, because this way you won't miss any news, any movement, or any decision that could change the future of the Warriors. This support makes the video reach more fans like you and ensures that we continue to bring information before everyone else. Once that's done, stay with me, because now I'm going to show you exactly why this signing changes the game and what no one has yet realized about its real impact on the Warriors. If you've been following the Warriors closely lately, you've probably felt something that's difficult to explain in numbers, but very easy to notice watching the games. That uncomfortable feeling that the team competes, fights, has talent, but always seems to be a step behind when facing more physical, more intense, or simply younger opponents. It's not a lack of effort, it's not a lack of system, and it's definitely not a lack of leadership. It's a lack of fit. And that is exactly why this movement involving Keon Ellis gained such weight and attracted so much attention when ESPN decided to practically dedicate an entire block to unraveling the matter. When I watched the analysis, the first thing that caught my attention wasn't even the name of the player itself, but the tone of the conversation. It wasn't that shallow talk of market rumors, nor empty speculation to fill program time. It was a deep, technical, almost surgical discussion about how an apparently simple movement can change much deeper layers of the team's structure. And that, for those who have been following the Warriors for years, makes perfect sense. Keon Ellis is not a star. It's not a name on a shirt. It's not someone who will sell tickets alone. But if you understand Warriors basketball, understand Steve Kerr's system, and understand what this team has lost in recent years, you quickly understand why this type of player becomes a priority. The team has always been built around collective intelligence, game reading, aggressive perimeter defense, and quick transition. When these pieces work together, the attack flows, the Curry breathes, and the team becomes a nightmare for any opponent. The problem is that, over time, some of these gears began to fail. Important players got older. Others began to live more with injuries, and the weight began to fall more and more on the same shoulders. ESPN hit this point a lot when talking about Curry, not just what he produces offensively, because that continues to be elite, but how much he is being demanded on all sides of the court. Guard explosive point guards, run after physical wingers, carry the attack, decide games in the last quarter. It takes a toll. That's where the inevitable comparison with Gary Payton II comes in. When he was healthy and at his physical peak, the Warriors had something precious. Someone who took on the thankless mission of bothering the best opposing player, allowing Curry to be more strategic in defense. It's not about hiding the Curry, it's about preserving it. And when ESPN put the plays side by side, the similarity became clear. Ellis has that same type of energy, that defensive reading that doesn't always appear on the box score, but changes games. The most curious thing is that Ellis is not in evidence in Sacramento Kings. On the contrary, he had been little used, often remaining on the bench even though he had shown his ability to contribute. This, for more attentive analysts, is almost always a sign that something is about to happen. When a young, cheap player with good defensive numbers simply disappears from the rotation, other teams in the league take notice. It's no coincidence, according to ESPN itself, around 10 teams have already shown interest in him. And here comes a fundamental point: the contract. In a league where average players receive inflated salaries, finding someone with a rotation profile, real defensive impact, and a salary in the range of 2 to 3 million is extremely rare. For a team stuck in the second apron, as is the case with the Warriors, this is worth its weight in gold. It's not an exaggeration. Current NBA rules practically tie the hands of those in this salary range. You can't add contracts. You can't easily search for names in the buyout. You can't make mistakes. That's why I say ESPN's discussion went beyond, is it worth it or not? She got into, is it possible or not? And within this scenario, Ellis appears as a realistic solution. Someone who doesn't require major financial maneuvers, doesn't break the structure of the squad, and also solves a specific pain: defense on the perimeter and constant intensity. When they showed the advanced numbers, things became even clearer. Deflections, percentage of the opponent when he is the primary marker, ability to pass through blocks. All of this places Ellis at an above-average level among defensive guards. But perhaps the point that most changed the perception of many people, including mine, was the offensive analysis. There is a common idea that players with this defensive profile hinder the attack, that they stand still, are ignored by the defense, and break the space. ESPN made a point of dismantling this narrative. Ellis is not a creator, but he understands the game. Moves, cuts at the right time, knows how to occupy empty spaces, and above all, converts free throws. His catch-and-shoot numbers clearly show that. In Steve Kerr's system, this is essential. The Warriors' attack does not depend on one-against-one all the time. It depends on reading, extra passing, movement without the ball. A player who understands this fits in almost automatically. When they showed his moves repositioning himself on the perimeter as the defense collapsed, it became clear how useful he could be alongside Curry, Draymond, and Wiggins. Of course, none of this comes without debate. ESPN also brought up the discussion about the cost. A first-round pick, even at the end of the draft, is not trivial. Some analysts argued that it was a fair price for a player ready, with the age, physique, and reading, to contribute now and in the future. Others were more cautious, remembering that the Warriors have already given up many assets and that the team, realistically, may not be among the 3 or 4 favorites for the title at this moment. This discussion is healthy. It exactly reflects the franchise's dilemma: compete while the Curry is still elite, or start thinking more coldly about what comes next. The strongest argument in favor of the exchange, in my view, was when they raised the idea that Ellis is not just a short-term move. He is young, will be a restricted free agent, and could very well be part of the transition for the future. It's not a rental. It's an investment. When ESPN simulated possible rotations, the fit became even clearer. Ellis coming off the bench, taking on specific defensive missions, closing games on nights when greater intensity is needed, allowing Kerr to better manage minutes and energy. This also protects young players like Podziemski, who is still developing and shouldn't carry so much responsibility in big games. Another interesting point was the discussion about mentality. Playing in Sacramento is different from playing in San Francisco. The pressure changes, the demand changes, the environment changes. Bringing in a sports psychologist to talk about Ellis's profile was a smart move. All indications are that he has a professional approach, defensive focus, and willingness to do the dirty work. Exactly the type of player who tends to adapt well to more demanding contexts. Ultimately, what this ESPN analysis made clear is that not every big change comes with fireworks. Sometimes it comes with a silent adjustment, almost invisible to anyone who only looks at the names. But for those who understand the game, these movements say a lot. Keon Ellis represents intensity, balance, and tactical intelligence. It doesn't solve all of the Warriors' problems, but it tackles one of the most obvious. And when people say that this changes everything, it is not in the sense of turning the team into an automatic favorite for the title. This is to restore coherence to the project, to realign defense, rotation, and preservation of the main player, of giving Steve Kerr tools that he clearly misses in certain games. That's what makes this potential hire so relevant. If this deal actually comes to fruition, don't expect headlines about historic points or performances right away. Expect more controlled games, more solid endings, and a looser Curry in the decisive moments. Sometimes level jumping happens just like that. Silent, strategic, and absolutely necessary. And that is exactly why this movement cannot be treated as just another piece of market news. He talks about identity, about correcting course, and about understanding the moment of the franchise. The Warriors are not trying to go back in time, nor repeat old formulas out of nostalgia. They are trying to adapt, protect what is still elite, and build a more functional base to compete game after game. If this signing is confirmed, the real impact will appear in the details, in the more solid defense, in the more constant pace, and in the Curry arriving in one piece when the game calls for Big Za. Now, if you want to follow everything that involves this possible arrival, the board's next decisions, Steve Kerr's rotations, and every development that could change the course of the season, I left the Golden State Warriors News Today playlist in the pinned comment. Click there because there are all the analyses, updates, and behind the scenes you need to understand what is really happening within the franchise. Stay with me, join the playlist, and stay one step ahead of everyone who only discovers things later.